next question. This is really interesting because I don't know whether this is true, but it does pose an interesting question because it's about what we take for granted now and how we do what we do as to what people did hundreds of years ago. Because Mike in Bath asks this question: how did they cut their toenails in the 13th century? Because there weren't any scissors. Now, I don't know whether there were any scissors or there weren't any scissors, and whether people worried about things like cutting toenails or not. Let's speak now to Gillian Hovell, who is the muddy archaeologist. I'm guessing that's because, Gillian, you like to get down and dirty in the mud.
I do indeed, and good afternoon, John.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Good afternoon. I was fascinated to hear the story in the news a couple of days ago, which is a climate change story, but it's also a real worry when I heard it about what's happening around places like Hadrian's Wall with peat bogs drying out, and all of this stuff that which doesn't damage, it doesn't get oxidised. We could lose all this history because it will just rot in a way that it's not rotted in the current.
It's always been known about for years and years and years, because we've got a site up here in Yorkshire, Star Car, which is thousands and thousands of years old, and the wood is drying out. You used to be able to take it out looking like wood because it was in the sort of peaty area and and now you take it out and it looks like wobbly jelly. It's degrading.
Oh, it's so sad.
We're losing lots and lots of archaeology because everything's drying out.
And of course, this leads to a question like this, because obviously you want to be able to know how people live, because that is a way of going back to go forwards, and we learn. One of the things we've learned from your question, your answer, is that one of the reasons you go to an oldie-weldy cottage and the doors are all higgledy-piggledy and small is that people were a lot shorter than they are today, because we eat better, we've got better nutrition and better health outcomes and what have you.
Well, I only have to stand looking upwards at my son,
Yeah, it's always disturbing when your children look at you and go, hang on a minute, how did that happen?
Exactly.
So, in the 13th century, did scissors exist? Were they a thing?
Well, oddly enough, that's exactly the time that scissors, as we know it, with a hinge in the middle, started to appear in the archaeological record.
Wow.
So they've hit the nail. Give you pardon.
Hit the nail on the head.
Spontaneous, I promise you. But before that, they had what looked like sort of sheep shears, which are two blades joined by a curved metal piece. So it's one piece of metal that, like a safety pin, if you push it, it springs together. So that's a sprung thing, isn't it, as opposed to a hinge thing? Exactly. And that's what people used as hair cutters and as well as sheep shearers. But we also know they took little penknife kind of things and cleaned their fingernails out using them. And they even, until quite recently, would use them to file down their nails.
So it was more of a filing, or they would chew, I would suppose, or it would just fall off.
Exactly. But I think if you're working out in the fields, you never. As an archaeologist, for years I never had to do my nails at all. I have to admit. My sister-in-law said, you should have lovely nails like this, and showed me her painted ones. I went, not a hope, dear.
May I introduce you, my darling, to my business card where it says, The Muddy Archaeologist. The clues in what I do.
Precisely. So it's not a problem if you're working hard with your hands.
Was there in the 13th and 14th century, was there... obviously a change, the scissors coming in was a change, and it must have been one of those things where, that obviously they didn't have, QVC or what have you. They go, look what we've invented. But I'm just thinking, it must have, the invention of scissors must have changed so much from the point of view of clothing and personal care.
Yes, well, being able to, I think it was more to cut cloth than your nails, to be honest.
Right.
I think you'd still take a blade, and right from Roman times, they used to carry a little nail cleaner, and they'd sit at the barber and just clean their nails out while they were there as well. But so I think the scissors are they're a bit elite at that stage. Everybody wouldn't be going, I'll go and buy a new pair of nail scissors. It would just be a pair of scissors for particular uses. Right. And I think they would still be scratching around at their nails.
Now, what I always find interesting about these sorts of things when we talk about it is that something that was special and unique. And for the elite, you spool forward 800-900 years ago. Cheap ones fall out of crackers on Christmas Day across the nation. It's like sort of, what was something that was, for the very top of the tree, now falls out of a cracker for everybody. This goes to show, doesn't it? That's a social
life
change.
Changes hugely, and people say to me, "Oh, wouldn't you love to go back and live in these times?" I said, "Well, I'd love to go back and visit and find out what was real and what we've got wrong about it, but there's no way on earth you'd get me to live in them."
I couldn't agree with you more, Gillian. Far too much like hard work. You've been brilliant. Thank you so much for being on the programme and answering Mike and Bath's question. Gillian Hovell, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
The muddy archaeologist there. And there you go, Mike, your question, your answer, done.